Hey everybody, Dino Watt here, and I hope you're enjoying this sales and marketing program that Amy and I are putting on for you. Isn't Amy amazing? She's just so smart. She loves and she has a passion for it, as you can tell, marketing as I do, and the sales process. Man, I'm just excited to share this information with you. Today, I'm going to talk to you about something that I think might be a little controversial for a few of you, but if you give me a moment and you actually listen through the logic, it'll make sense. It's going to scare the heck out of you guys. We've talked about before, getting out of your comfort zone, but I don't understand the logic in why it's a continued habit that so many offices have out there, and you're missing money. You're missing out on a lot of money. Now, before, in a previous video, I talked to you about the truth of the fact that you have one or two departments in your entire business, either sales or sales support, and that's it. So sales are the people that are actually going to help make the transaction happen and actually get the money from them. That's why your sales team has to be killer. They have to know about sales. They have to study sales. They have to study and role play overcoming objections and challenges. And that's also why they have to be in conversation with your marketing department so that they can make sure they're getting the right type of people that they know they can close and bring into the office more often. It's a symbiotic relationship. They are getting the data to make sure you're getting a stronger ROI on your marketing department. Then we also have to connect that to the people who are scheduling, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Because the scheduling people, as well as you and as well as the assistants that you have in your office, and anyone else that is not in direct contact with actually getting the money and the transaction happening, they're in the sales support system. And the first line of defense in your sales is how you're scheduling your success. So I'm going to start off this piece with telling you a story that is not my story. It's actually Stephen Covey's story from the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Stephen in there talks about, uses an analogy of the rocks and the sand. And if you try to fill up your life, and he uses a jar with all the sand things, the things that don't really move the needle, the busy work, the non-income producing activities in your life, and not relationship building activities in your life, we put all that stuff in, and then you try to add the things that matter to you, that are supposed to matter, like time with your family and working on your health. And those are the rocks of our life, right? Those are the things the foundational things that'll be here forever. And you try to put those in last, then you're not going to have enough room. But if you put your rocks in first and let all the important things happen first and make sure those are very intentional about things that you want in life, then you put the sand in, and the sand will trickle around all of the rocks. And you'll have time to do those things, and you'll also figure out how to manage that time more wisely. And I use that analogy because I think from what I've seen over and over and over again is the way you schedule your appointments, it is more rocks going in after the sand. So let me give it an example. So often in our scheduling process, we have this idea that if we have a full schedule, that's a good thing. The more people we get in that schedule, the less holes we have in that schedule, that's what we want. We don't want to see any empty spaces. Matter of fact, I had a client a while ago talk about this. I was talking to her TC team and saying, hey, you guys, you need to schedule this way. You should really look into scheduling this way. And the spouse who was involved in the business said, no way. She said a couple things. Number one, we want to make sure that we're paying our TCs to be busy. And number two is that we want to make sure that we're just fitting in people where we can as much as possible. We want to be full. And this reminds me of the whole idea of the difference of being busy and being productive, right? We're actually doing work or getting stuff done. And the way that scheduling is happening typically in these offices, we're not getting stuff done. We're just being busy. So let me point this out to you. When you schedule anyone in any spot available without thinking it through, without going, all right, I want to make sure that I have my highest and best possibility to close that person. I want to give them priority. So I've often seen before, I go into offices, I give this example. If you have 10 open spots for appointments in a week, for exams, knowing those 10 spots are where you're going to make your money, right? Because that's where somebody's going to say yes to you, give you a check, give you a contract, good to go. However, if in those 10 open spots, you fill them up, or your receptionist or your phone people or whoever you have filling in those spots, they fill it in with a bunch of 7-year-olds, then you've already knocked down your percentage of being able to close. So let's just say out of 10 spots, you put in 7 7-year-olds. Out of those 7, maybe 2 will actually get some sort of work that needs to be done. The rest of them are going to go into your OBS. And I get your OBS or your kids club or whatever you want to call it, where you are hoping on the future that they choose you because you're going to keep them and bring them back every 6 months or a year, depending on who they are, right? And you're hoping that they will turn into a client later on. And that's a good thing. I'm not saying you're not going to do that, but you got to be more strategic about it, because what's happening here is that you have a week of 10 slots available. 7 of them are filled up with 7-year-olds. The highest possible closing rate you can get if you fill in the other 3 with 12-year-olds is 30% closing rate. Now, I know you're going to say, but no, I would count my closing rate for later on down the road, if they eventually close, maybe a month from now or whatever. That is not where you're going to get the highest and best use of your sales. Because if you're trying to sell somebody, you want to sell them something now. Yes, you want to kind of prime the pump for later on for their future. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. But you want to do is you want to make sure that in those slots you have available, that your TC is talking to the marketing department, talking to the scheduling department, saying, okay, I have 10 slots available. Of course, I'm using the number 10. You can change that any way you want, right? But I have 10 slots available. I only have 3 available for anybody less than 11 years old. And the number is arbitrary. You can choose out whatever you think your ideal client is. But anyone under 11 years old, I only have 3 slots available for them next week. If those 3 slots are filled up, then we need to push them to the following week or the week after that. 2 things before you're thinking, no, we need to get them in right away, because if we have open slots. 2 things. Number 1, if we're talking 24 hours before the appointment and you're not going to fill up those 7 slots, okay, fine, go in with, give a couple more slots away. However, what you're doing is those 7-year-olds, they're not rushed to get into you. They're not going to start with you or anyone else. You can set that appointment for later on and still be comfortable with it. The more important part is this. If you fill up those slots with the 7-year-olds, and let's just say you have 7 7-year-olds filled up, and then you have 3 12-year-olds, great for those 3. But then you have another 14-year-old, another 15-year-old, another 12-year-old, someone who's your ideal client calling in that day, you have to push them out to another week or 2 weeks because you're already full. What makes more sense financially? To push them out or push out a 7-year-old who you can't start right away? I know you're thinking, but I want to have a full schedule. However, as the person who said this to me about we are paying our TCs to work, you're not. You're paying your TCs to actually make you money. They only can make money by having people who are in front of them who can close today. Also in that email, the person had said, but we have a 70% closing ratio. That's pretty good. That's fine. As a matter of fact, my personal feeling is that if you are doing the bare minimum in your business, just the mere fact alone that somebody is walking in to get braces into your office, if you can't close at least 60% to 70% of people, then you've messed up somewhere along the way. You have not shown them that you are the only choice and the best choice for them. So if you're worried or you're okay with 70%, then you're actually resting on your laurels. You're not focusing on, are my TCs real salespeople, and are we setting them up to win? We want to set up our TCs to win as much as possible. So if we do now, let's go back to our scenario. We have 10 slots available. We only have 3 slots available for anybody under 10 years old or 9 years old, whatever you want to make that mark. But now you have 7 slots available to actually fill in those slots. Now, let's just say a TC does have an open slot one day because we didn't fill those slots because, dang it, Dino told me only to fill in those 3 with 7-year-olds. That TC now has more time on her hands to make sure she's following up all those old people who came in and didn't close, all the people we want to get a hold of, all of the extra work that they always tell me every time I go into an office, I just don't have time for follow-up. That is found money. So that follow-up is that time they get to do it. Now, maybe they need to follow up to get somebody who scheduled an appointment but didn't show up. Cool. We have an open slot for you tomorrow. We have an open slot because you have those open 7 slots. Now, of course, 7 is the number again. I want you to think about this in your business. If it's, you normally see, 50 people in a week, and it's, you only have available for 10 7-year-olds or less, then you do those numbers for yourself. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying, and I hope you're seeing that what you're doing is you're setting them up to succeed more. Now, we still only get a 70% closing ratio, so that means that TC needs to make sure she is on her game, because as she's closing more, you're making more money, and those other 3 coming in every, this week and next week, the 7-year-olds, they're still going into the pile here. They're still going, and maybe you want to change your schedule to where once a month you allow 5 7-year-olds to come in. I'm thinking number 3, 5 7-year-olds to come into the office and have those slots available. I just want you to see that what you're doing is, when you're just cramming your schedule with people just to fill warm bodies, just to feel like we're productive, you're actually losing money. Because if that 12 or 13-year-old has had a referral to you, let's just say they're a referral from a dentist. They're not just cold calling you up because they saw your sign or they got your mailer, but it's from another dentist. And you say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't see you for 3 weeks because we're full of 7-year-olds. Of course, you're not going to say that to them, right? But because you know that your person can't get in there, then they are filling you up with 7-year-olds, and they're filling you up with 7-year-olds. You are missing out on money because that person now has 3 weeks to go to the other referral from that dentist and sign up with them and not come back to you. Now you're thinking, well, what about the 7-year-old? I'm sorry to tell you, but the priority should always be on who's going to be able to give me money now. I don't mean priority in customer service wise. I don't mean priority in they're a better person. But as a business owner, my job is to get more money coming into my business. It's the only way I can grow my business. That's it. I talked about that in another video. The only way to grow your business is by bringing in more cash. So when you take that 70%, as we talked about in that example, and move that to an 80% or an 85 or a 90%, because you're strategically scheduling and getting only the people you want in there, I know, and I hear people right now, I hear what you're thinking. I know that you're sitting there going like, oh man, when I see that open spot, it's just going to drive me crazy. I don't have an exam. I mean, that's just losing me money. I promise you it's not. And I promise you, if you are more strategic about your scheduling and you schedule your success, you're going to do a couple of things. Number one, you're going to see an increase in your closings within 30 days. Just try it out for 30 days. You're going to see an increase. Number two, you're going to be able to start to be able to predict your income every month. Predict how many starts you have every month. Why? Because you're going to be able to say, hey, TC, I love you so much. You're doing a great job. We obviously have 7 slots available this week, or in 2 weeks, or in 3 weeks. What are you doing to set up those 7 to be filled with clients that are our ideal clients? What are you doing to make sure that those people are going to? And now when we see out, oh, I've got 3 weeks worth of appointments scheduled for exams for people who are 13 years old, 12 years old, my ideal client, whatever that is, I can see, and now you can predict the future. See, one of the challenges with a lot of business people, especially entrepreneurs, is that we are used to the roller coaster up and down of cash flow and of influx of cash. We'll get influx. Oh, this month was amazing. This month kind of stunk. And in the ortho industry, there's a big issue with going, oh, you know what, geez, August stinks, or September stinks, or this month stinks. You kind of know and you predict ahead of time this month stinks. Well, if that's true, then why are we not scheduling ourselves for success to say, hey, you know what? That month is usually pretty low, but we can make sure we stack our appointments so that we know 3 months out we have this many people coming in. We have schedule full because we are moving people to where we want to put them, not just where there's a hole we need to fill. There's a lot of other things you can be doing with that time. Your TCs can be doing this time. Matter of fact, even if, I know this is going to sound a little self-serving, but even if your TCs spent the hour that's an open examination, and let's just say they're done with all of their follow-up calls and they have nothing else to do, they have no more prep to do. That's another thing they could be doing for the hour, right? Prepping, making sure they have all the information they possibly need before the new client comes in next week, or 2 days from now, or tomorrow, that they have everything they need, all the insurances, they followed up with them, they made sure they're coming in, everything they need to do prep-wise, even if they were done with that. Let's just say they're done with all that stuff, which I know they're not. But even if they were, if they sat and role-played how to overcome objections, they role-played how to connect better in their marketing, if they role-played how to have a conversation with somebody to actually help them make a buying decision as opposed to just presenting a case. Presenting a case is, so there's two different things here, and we'll talk about this later on. There's presenting a case, there's selling, that's selling, right? And then there's closing a case. Those are two different things. Anybody can present a case. Give them a couple hours worth of training and they can present a case. Now, are they going to do it the way that I like to do them, to take control and authority and stuff? I don't know. We'll see how good they are. However, not everybody can close, and you need closers. And closers understand when they're looking at all of their schedule and going, oh man, I want to close this much money. Man, it helps you understand not only how much you're going to make that month, it's going to help you set better goals with your TCs so they can see what they're doing. And by the way, that's the way you want to approach them, right? Say, hey, look, you have all ability here. If you give any type of incentive as a owner to your TCs about closing on certain amounts, they can make more money than a paycheck. Any type of incentive you give them. If you give them percentage, you give them bonuses, they should be able to predict that because they're going to be able to schedule their success. So I hope you understand and you see the power of putting those rocks in, because the rocks are your ideal clients. And the sand is all the other people that come into play. And if you do that, just like Stephen Covey shows, just like you'll see in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and just like I've seen, and I know it works this way, if you take control of your schedule, and by the way, that's a whole nother training, right? Taking control of your own schedule outside so you can get more stuff done. But this is the start of it. And this is something I know is not common in your industry. I know some of you are thinking, but nobody does that. And it's going to really, really hit your comfort zone button. I know it. And I promise if you just do it, excuse me, if you just be strategic about your schedule and not just let it happen and not just worry about looking busy and actually being productive and actually making more money, you're going to see a huge difference in your sales process and in your business. I promise you. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it, even if it's just maybe changing your mindset just a little bit and seeing that there's another way. Then I've done my job. I wish you all the best, and I'm looking forward to talking to you on the next video.